All right, welcome back to Sub 55 Forever. I am David O'Brien, Braves writer at The Athletic. I'm with my co-host, former Braves reliever Eric O'Flaherty. What's happening, Eric?
You're still getting used to that new name, huh?
I almost did it again, didn't I? But I got it. And we did it so many times. I mean,
Yeah,
we did a lot of those.
yeah, we did.
Uh, so as I was saying to you before we started recording, I was right about the 5-1 trip to Miami and Houston. I just had it reversed. I
Yeah,
thought they would sweep the Marlins and take 2 or 3 from Houston. Houston is playing bad, like poorly right now. I think they're going to be a lot better. They get Verlander back Friday, so there's probably good timing on the Braves' part. And their bullpen certainly has got to get better. I mean, Hader shit the bed in the ninth inning in game two. A couple of other guys gave up. They just play bad baseball for the most part. Uh, they're not getting a whole lot of. They got some offense. They scored some runs, but not a whole lot. But they've got way too much talent to be down there where they are right now. Like however, what is it, 10 games under 500?
yeah,
So,
yeah. I mean, they're gonna have to play good too to win that
or
division. Texas is a pretty good team.
or like I'm sorry, like five, like 16. They're like 6 and 10, right? Something like that. They're like 8 games under 500, whatever they are. They only won 6 games. Meanwhile, the Braves, man, it was a hell of a trip considering all that happened. Considering that you had Strider getting surgery the day before the trip started, out for the season. Considering you lost your all-star second baseman in the first game here and played the last 2 games without him in Houston, and he's out. Ozzy's out for indefinitely. It won't be like when he broke his foot because it didn't break the bone in half. You didn't hear a crack or anything. It was the way he characterized it to me. It sounded like a hairline fracture type thing, kind of like RCA. RCA's was a micro fracture, which I think is kind of a really small version of a hairline.
Yeah,
But RCA was back, remember, faster than anybody thought. He was back like 3.5 weeks.
yeah.
This is weight bearing to a degree. I mean, it's big toe. I know they'll put something hard around it probably and all that. And but he was walking around the clubhouse today. He took the boot off the last 2 days because he was in uniform during the game, and he was walking around after showering with his slides on and nothing on the toe at all. So I mean, if that's any indication, it wasn't like real swollen up and taped up or anything.
That's a good sign.
Yeah. I mean, I'd guess a month, but maybe give or take a week on either side of that. But that's what I would guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably one of those things that you could almost even play through, but risk it turning into
Right.
a big problem, and so you got to do it right. But it hurts. It hurts not having him. I mean, he's
Yeah.
just we say it all the time, but he's probably for me the most overlooked player on the team.
Yeah. And he was having a great year too.
Yeah,
And he's just such a perfect piece when he's hitting like this for that 2 hole.
yeah.
Because his speed, after you get Acuna hasn't been Acuna so far. He has 9 stolen bases now, leading the majors, and he got his first homer today, though. So he's probably starting to come out of it now. But when Acuna wasn't doing Acuna things, having Ozzy in that 2 hole almost gives you 2 leadoff guys before you get to the big thumpers there. And Ozzy's got power too, obviously. He's a 25 homer guy. So, um, yeah, if you get Acuna going while Ozzy's out, I think it picks up for it. And the other guys keep doing what they're doing, of course. I mean, Ozuna's just unconscious right now. Uh, I guess the good thing is they got this depth and they're not like crossing their fingers and bringing some minor leaguer up that they hope's ready to play second base. You got Guillorme and you got Fletcher. And we saw today, they stuck Fletcher in at the end of the game. They pinch hit and did a double switch, and Fletcher took over at the end of the game and turned that double play at the end. He's better defensively than Ozzy is.
Is he?
He really is. He's really slick. He played all over the infield. He played third, short, and second at spring training. And I didn't see him make a bad play. I saw him make a great play or more at each of those positions. And Guillorme's solid too at second base.
Yeah,
So
it's huge having guys that have some experience at the major league level. You call guys up, you have no clue what you're going to get. These guys, you know, they're not going to be overwhelmed and they can fill in until you get them back.
Yeah, I mean, obviously these guys are not anywhere near. I mean, there's a huge drop off offensively, huge.
Yeah.
But defensively, yeah, I think Fletcher's better than Ozzy, and Gilmay's probably close to it. Ozzy doesn't have a good arm at this stage of his career, and if this year he's even made a few kind of mistakes, on non-throwing mistakes. So not that he's bad second base, but he's not a Gold Glove type guy. And Fletcher is really good defensively. So if they just hold the fort down defensively and, not be horrible, but they're going to be hit at the
Yeah.
bottom of the lineup. You got Harris now in the 2-hole. What another luxury to be able to move a guy like Harris up from the bottom half of your order to the 2-hole.
Yeah. And what if he sticks? You know, because Ozzy hits for power too, and he's been in different spots in the lineup throughout his career. It's like, I mean, you could, like we said last, you could hit shuffle on this lineup, and you
Yeah.
throw a good lineup out there, but you have a surplus of offense. So if you can have these guys just get the job done defensively and play solid defense and get the outs you're supposed to get, they should be fine.
Harris against right-handers, man. That's pretty lethal in that second spot.
Yeah.
I mean, he
And he
ranks
handles
against
lefties too. He handles them
He
fine.
does. Yeah, he does. He hasn't produced the numbers this year that he did in the past, but yeah, he does. He handles them fine. I think what we saw from I'm convinced now on Lopez. It's nothing
Yeah.
fluky about what he's doing. This dude's a stud. I mean, he's
Yeah.
got 3 starts. He's gone 6 innings in every one of them, and he's given up 4, 3, and 4 hits. He given up 1 run, and that was in the first one in the cold and rain at Chicago. He's got an 0.50 ERA. It's the second lowest in the majors among qualified pitchers.
Yeah, they must have seen something in him, you know, that they thought.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times it's kind of a good transition to get your feet under you in the bullpen
That's
because you
what he's
just
talking about.
realize like I can get anybody out. You know, you
Yeah.
wind up in the bullpen, you only got to see Trout once or whoever it happens to be. You see him once, you know you can get him out. But a lot of times when guys get called up, maybe starting is just too much exposure or too much to bite off initially, combined with, you know, being trying to figure out the league
Yeah.
and calm yourself down. The bullpen's such shorter stints, you can start having success and you know you can pitch here. And then when you go back to starting, I think you see what it can turn into with him.
It really helped that they told him the Braves kind of not downplayed it, but they said, yeah, we're gonna get him stretched out and we'll decide at spring training what role he's in. They told him he'd start.
Right
So
away.
when they signed him, they assured him you're gonna get a chance to start.
Yeah.
It wasn't we'll get you stretched out and then decide at spring training which role's best for us. He was gonna get a chance. So that's what he was fully preparing for. So that gave him a chance to work on that curveball, which he used to throw as a starter, but he really didn't throw much at all as a reliever. That's been a big difference maker. I mean, that's another shaped pitch than what he was throwing.
Yeah, I think
And
solid.
3 pitches, and that's all I think he needs. And I've just been impressed that he hasn't gone out there in the first inning
Yeah.
throwing 100 miles an hour. And, in the third inning, second time through or third time through at the most, getting rocked because his velocity's falling. He's going out there and pitching like a starter. He's throwing like 95, mixing his pitches, and the fastball command's been great.
Everything's been great. Yeah.
Yeah.
He is pitching though. And that's what, you know, I didn't get too excited when they got him because it's a guy throwing 100 and I'm like, well, we'll see. You know, that's a different transition, just blowing people's doors off for an inning at a time versus guys seeing you multiple times a game and having to mix it up and catch them off balance, not letting them sit on stuff. And as a reliever, you can walk to an inning and still have a pretty good run, but as a starter, it's like you can't have those blow up innings. One of them will turn into a big one. So I wasn't too excited just hearing about his stuff, but after the first game I watched him pitch, I was like, okay, this guy's like he's pitching like a starter. He's not trying to blow hitters away. He's making
Yeah.
pitches.
I was just glancing at his stats, and I just happened to notice in the front he's already got 1.2 WAR. I mean, for
Yeah.
his career, it was 7 WAR before this year. 3 starts. That's the difference in what WAR awards for starters compared to relievers. That's for sure. But
Yeah.
18 strikeouts in 18 innings, giving up no hits. I mean, he's just. I think the only big question mark still is he hasn't thrown 70 innings since 2019 when he had back-to-back years as a starter. This is what Alex said they also thought about when they signed him was he had the last 2 years when he was a full-time starter, the only 2 years in the majors when he's a full-time starter, he went 32 and 33 starts and had 188 innings and 184 innings. So they knew he's a horse. And that was back when he's a far more mature pitcher now than he was back then.
Yeah.
And they really thought what has transpired, they thought had a chance to transpire. And Ronaldo has talked about how he wishes like what you were saying, he wishes he knew all the stuff he learned in the pen. He wishes he knew the first time he was starting. He said
Yeah.
the experience in the bullpen has really helped him become a better starter.
I think the biggest advantage is you learn how to pitch out of jams and situations, and you learn how to pitch and I can't give up a run or what my out pitches are. I mean, you just learn so much because there's no room for error. You learn what your strengths are. Then you go back to starting and you get in a jam. It's like I've been here a million times. And the thing that I like about him, just watching him pitch, is I think he's going to be okay, with the load, like managing his load and everything, because he's not overthrowing. It's
right.
If he was throwing 100 and had the exact same outcome and numbers and everything, and this first year in a while throwing 200 innings or 160 innings, something like that,
yeah,
I'd say, August and September might be tough, but the effort level he's at is just beautiful.
And I don't know if it's apparent on TV because he's one of those guys that's bigger than he looks on TV because he's so perfectly proportioned.
Yeah.
He's a big dude.
Yeah.
He's far bigger than most starters. He's put together. He's like not fat, but he's tall. He's put together. So I think that's going to help him handle this load too. So we asked Snit, because they've been really careful and they've been lucky because of the off days and the weather games. So what's happened is he's pitched exactly once per week. He's pitched the 9th, the 16th, or the 2nd, the 9th, and the 16th every week. Yep. So he's had 6 rest days instead of the normal. What used to be normal is 4, although the Braves are among those teams that now do 5 days more than 4. Yeah. But with him and the other starters, most of the other starters, they're getting 6 because of all the situations they've had in the early season. But they're going to try to keep doing that with him. So tells me they're going to bring guys up like they have so far to make like a spot start and push him back. And like if they want to also push Sale back, they can do that at the same time. Give them 5 or 6 days rest every time. So Snit said, we asked Snit about, could he stay in the start? He's pitching 6 innings a game. Could he really stay in the rotation all year and still be strong in October when he hasn't pitched, 70 innings since 2019? Or will you guys have to move him to the pen? Bo asked him, and Snit goes, we're not even thinking about that. I mean, to be honest, we're not thinking about that yet. So what they're going to try to do is do this, what they're doing. And that'll in effect cut off if you get 5 or 6 days rest every time, that'll cut off like 4 starts right there.
Yeah.
Or 5 starts.
I think a lot of times most starters would say, I don't like having too much rest.
Yeah.
But he's thriving with it. So it's a perfect combination. If you can give a guy those extra days and keep him fresh throughout the season and he's pitching well with it, why not? I think the only time you wouldn't want to do that, or a guy might have a problem with that extra time off, is if he feels rusty. But these starts they're crisp.
Yeah. Yeah. He said it's helped him. It's really helped him because of the load that to make the transition. He said that, and the training staff, he said they've had a great program for him with all the recovery and everything. So
much more now in the game, hyperbaric chambers, and we had ice and stim.
Yeah.
Go John Coles.
So it really this plan works better for them than it would most teams because they have a 40-year-old. They have Chris Sale, who hasn't pitched innings in the last 4 years. And you have spot starters coming up. The only guy I think that it really wouldn't have worked with, there's 2, is Strider. You wouldn't want to have 5 or 6 days rest with him.
You want him starting.
And Fried, once he gets going like Fried, like we know he will, but he hasn't so far. Which brings me to my next thing is, it's almost like Ronaldo Lopez has surpassed expectations and been every bit as good as Fried has underwhelmed and been bad so far. It's almost like that's a wash right there, because you're getting so much more from Lopez than you thought you were going to get. And so far, you haven't got it from Fried. but Fried's not hurt, and he's going to be fine. It's just he has it right now. He just doesn't look like Max. He's not throwing strikes like he usually does. That's the thing I've noticed. He's not throwing nearly he threw like 96 pitches today, 52 strikes. That's not Max Fried, man. He walked 4
No.
in the first 3 innings. That's normally like 2 or 3 starts for him. Remember, he had the stretch last year where he walked like 3 guys in 5 starts.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's probably just a tick off mechanically, or
Yeah,
it's early in the season. I thought he looked good in Miami, but
I did too. But they're so bad, a team. It's
you
kind of
don't want
hard
to
to
give it credit.
gauge. It's kind of hard to
Yeah,
gauge, but I
I
did
get
think
it.
he looked better. I like he looked good there.
He looked sharp. I mean, he was throwing more strikes in that game, but I don't worry about Max. He's
Yeah,
been he's been too good for too long. His stuff looks good. I mean,
yeah.
everything's crisp.
Philo's
He's got
not down, all that kind of thing. Spin
yeah,
rates.
it's all there.
It just isn't quite as sharp as he normally is. He doesn't have the pinpoint command. And I tell you what, Houston, even despite their bad record, they've got professional hitters over there. They
Yeah.
work counts. As like you said, he had that inning where he gave up 2 runs today. He gave up 4 straight hits and had a wild pitch in there too. Single, 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 double. Got
Yeah.
out of it with 2 runs, but he said 3 of those hits he thought were out of the strike zone. So
Yeah.
he gave them credit for being able to stay with those pitches and get hits at them. They weren't hard hit balls. Those weren't. 3 of them weren't.
I
So
bet I mean that ball Alvarez hit too. It's probably a fly out in a lot of parks.
the home run.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was the first row of the Crawford boxes.
357.
First row of the Crawford boxes, which yeah, that's not out. And you know what? The Crawford boxes are not even as deep as that sign says they are.
I've always wanted to take a rangefinder. It looks like
Yeah,
278,
yeah. It's listed like 315 down the line.
315. Yeah. So it's probably
I
like
would
three.
I bet it's below 310. It's got to be less than 310. It looks like a right on top of you, the left fielder.
Yordan Alvarez home run is a homer in 1 out of 30 parks.
That's
It's
it.
347 feet.
There you go. Because it was
So
almost left center. And it was
yeah,
in the first row of the Crawford boxes. So that's the only place it's a home run. And what was the velo? It was like exit velo 92,
97,
97.
97.6.
So then Ozuna
That's a
comes
hard
back.
hit ball, but it's not destroyed. I
It's
mean,
a
it's
fly
caught.
ball in the warning track. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Ozuna comes back in the next inning and says, hold my beer. Here's how you hit a
Yeah.
home run to left field, my man.
Yeah. Ozuna's home run was a home run in 30 of 30 parks at
He hit
112.
that fucking thing was 14 feet less than Solaire's World Series homer to almost
Yeah.
that same spot.
Yeah.
That's what the measurement was, only 14 feet less than Solaire's, which a lot of people will swear has still not come down.
Yeah.
I was going to crush that ball. I
He's
look,
he's as good as I've ever seen him right now.
oh my God, he's so hot. I looked it up and he had before today like 36 balls or 35 balls hit at 95 or above. And the next most on the Braves like was Riley, Olson, and Harris were all tied with like 27. So he had the most by far among the Braves, like sixth in the majors. So uh, yeah, he's not striking out much. He's hitting and he hits the ball hard to every field. I mean, he hits line drives to right field, to left field, up the middle. You know what? I was talking to Olson about that yesterday. I was talking about how great it is having behind him because Matt said I've left a lot of guys on this year. I haven't moved a guy over, and it seems like every time I do that, he bails me out and drives a guy in. But he said he pointed out something great that this kind of thing hitters notice. I was talking about as I go, he's got a lot of funky movements in his swing, right? And all that, the feet and all that. But once he gets the bat in the zone, it stays in there all the time, right? And he said, yeah. And he goes, he goes, I think you said this. He said the bat is like a toothpick in his hands. He said, we were
Yeah.
talking about this the other day. And it allows him to wait just that tick longer on pitches than
See the
like most
ball.
guys. He says, so he sees the ball and he could go a little bit late and still drive it. So that gives him that advantage. It really is an advantage when you got that kind of bat speed.
Yeah, look, I hit every day as a kid, but I was hitting in my front yard with wiffle ball bats and stuff. You know, when you have one of those, it's like
Yeah.
you could swing so late and just
Yeah.
whip it through the zone. That's what he reminds me of when he's swinging probably a 32, 33 ounce bat. is how I felt in my front yard swinging a wiffle ball bat. Like you just
Yeah,
flick it with your wrist and it's in the zone forever, but it's going fast. That's that's what I see when I watch him swing. And Evan Gaddis was kind of like that.
yeah,
Gaddis made the bat just look so light. Other guys, you could see how much they got to use their body to really whip it through. And Ozuna, it looks like he could just swing with his wrist. He's so strong.
Gary Sheffield was like that.
Yeah, yeah. Gary had that. I mean, Ozuna, it's crazy watching him because it looks like he could just like he just got it right by his side and he could just like he could maybe swing
Yeah,
one-handed and still hit a homer. He's so strong.
yeah, he's strong, man. But yeah, I think to the naked eye, to the untrained eye, you would never be able to see the difference. What Matt Olson's talking about, that tick that he can wait a little bit longer because of
Yeah,
its bat speed, but it's there, and it's why he can hit the ball so hard to the other way. And Olson does it too, but not many guys do it. You know, most guys are up the middle or pull,
yeah.
and like
Matt, I see like leverage. He leverages really well, and he's got long levers he's using to
yeah,
create that power. And Ozuna is short and quick and whippy.
yeah, Acuna when he's on does the
Yeah,
same thing. We've seen him hit line drives to right field at
yeah,
he won at Philly.
140.
That was like 20 rows up in right field in Philly that I've only seen like Miggy do as a right-handed hitter, hit him like a left-handed pull hitter.
I saw Stanton hit one off of Medlin that looked like the second baseman could have caught it, and it was still going up when it made it in the seats. His rookie year, that's the kind
Yeah,
of power Acuna has, though, at
yeah.
probably 60 pounds lighter.
So that was the good news today. That was a big development. I mean, obviously, another come from behind win. We've seen them do this so many times now. Today, they get a home run. Astros get a home run in the first inning. The Braves come back and get a home run in the second. And Acuna hits his first of the year, broke a 79 at bat drought. I think it was going back to last September. It was the longest drought of his career. And he hit it. That was a nice one. That was crushed. A big part of the ballpark center. Um, so they have a 2-1 lead. Then Max gives up the lead, which he was pissed about. But we've seen the Braves do this. They go down 4-2, late innings. And once again, the bullpen comes on. Xavi gave up the home run that made it a 4-2 game. And then after that, after he gives up the leadoff homer, nothing more for the rest of the 4 innings that the bullpen was in there. And we've seen him do it again and again and again. Or 5 innings, right? They went 5 innings
Yeah,
today. Max only went 4. 5 relievers, all pitched an inning apiece. That's what they usually do, pitch an inning. Or what did somebody went an inning and third. I think Mentor got 2 outs there. Mentor got 2 big outs too.
yeah.
But the bullpen, they had that blip where they gave up all those runs in that series at home against, who was that, Arizona?
Mets
The
or
Mets.
Arizona.
Yeah,
Yeah,
every game in that series. But that's really the only, other than that, they've been really stud. They've the ERAs are a little misleading because of it's so early and a
yeah. A
couple of
couple
bad,
crooked numbers. Yeah,
right, like Pierce Johnson. That dude's been dynamite, but he had a
yeah.
couple of bad innings. Uh,
Hey, that's what's so stressful as a reliever. You can be great, and you give up a three spot. You just bit off
yeah,
a month of hard work.
yeah. Bummer had another bad night last night. Uh, but his ERA looks ugly because he had those 2 bad ones at the beginning of the year. But I looked it up. He had actually had 5 good outings. And
Yeah.
I talked to him this morning, and he's like, last night, he goes, that's the worst. When you come in, they had a 6-0 lead. He comes in the ninth, and they
Closer's
had to
got to
bring
come in.
when they have to bring the closer in. He said, you got that kind of lead, and somebody to clean up my mess. He goes, I hate that. But he said, I'm not discouraged because and I looked it up. His ground ball rates are great. He's given up his hard hit rates higher than it's ever been, but he was getting the ground balls, and that's what he's here for. And he had like 5 straight games. So as Smith said, his stuff's too good. I'm not worried about him at all.
I think he needs to throw lefties inside. Just watching him this is to get the elite lefties out, the really, really good ones, you have to be
Yeah.
able to pitch inside, if like a two-seamer inside, or at least show them you can throw a fastball for a strike inside. Because those good ones are just leaning out, looking for it out over, and he's got the hard cutter, the slider, the
Yeah.
fastball going away from him. And also maybe pitch righties in too a little bit. But that's the toughest thing. But there's no reason with his stuff he shouldn't be elite.
Don't you think he's probably missing though? I mean, he's probably trying to do that, right? Or can you tell with catcher setting up? Is he just
I
is he
didn't see
not
him
trying to
setting
come inside?
up into lefties. I saw him
Okay,
going into righties, and the fastball I saw him throw into a right. He gave up
right,
that cheap hit, kind of like
right,
tied him up. But when you have that angle that he has,
right.
yeah, I think he'll be really good. It's just a matter of figuring out what works best for him.
That funky delivery, man. He like short arms
Yeah,
it. Really, it's on
yeah.
top of the guy.
That is,
I tell you what, because he had the bad ERA last year. I looked at his on Savant at his year by year, and he's lost like a mile an hour on his sinker every year for like 4 straight years now. And I know he's not a big velo guy, but it's been every year he's lost like a 1+ mile per hour on his fastball. He might have to, like you're saying, adjust a little bit, and maybe doesn't
yeah.
get away with what he used to get away with when he was throwing 3 miles an hour faster.
Yeah, and just so you can set up a back foot slider to righties with that four seam in. And when I went in on righties, I almost aimed above the belly button, like try to tie them up in tight because
Yeah,
they can drop the head on it when it's down. And then lefties, if you can throw a lefty a fastball in for a strike and they have to respect it, your
yeah,
slider's twice as nasty. That's when you see, or I mean, even better is the lefty lefty changeup. I could never throw that, but the guys that can, you get ridiculous swings. But just when I watch him, that sinker into lefties changed my entire career. And I was lucky because BMAC was catching and he knows how hard that is to
yeah,
hit. And
yeah,
JC Romero used to just eat him up with those. So when I came over, he just started calling it all the time. You learn that pitch as a lefty, it's a
yeah.
wrap.
But I tell you, man, it's like we talked about how with this pin being so deep, they can go through stretches where like 2 or 3 guys are off and they're slumping, and it won't matter because there's so many. And that's the difference when they only had 3 guys that were going to lean on every time they had a lead or the game was tied. Now they've got legitimately 7 or 8 that they can use anytime. And
And so many games are decided in those the fourth through the sixth inning
yeah,
because a lot of teams that are short, they don't have that depth. They give
yeah,
up the extra two, right? And then if one guy gives up two, now you're going to somebody worse than him.
yeah,
But if that first guy comes in and keeps it close for an inning or two, and the next guy comes in and you keep it there, now you're bringing in better and better relievers.
yeah.
And soon enough with this offense, if you just keep it close, they're going to put up a three spot.
Exactly. And we saw this in this series against Houston. The Braves destroyed them after the eighth
Yeah.
inning. Three
Yep.
straight games.
Yep.
They got 4 runs in consecutive ninth innings against the Astros.
Yep.
So
That's nothing new. We've been seeing that for years.
yeah, and that's the difference though between a great bullpen like the Braves, a deep bullpen, and one that's not so, and they have to rest anybody in the Astros pen. The Braves hitters are just relentless, and you can't bring in like a lesser reliever to face the bottom of the Braves order and kind of squeeze in, sneak in 3 outs against the 7, 8, 9 hitters because their 7, 8, 9 hitters are like
Yeah.
fucking Arcia, and
Yeah.
and that guy's hitting 380.
Yeah. Kelnick's up there. Duvall come in
Kelnick
and
is, yeah.
yeah.
Duvall's got pop. Kelnick's getting lots of hits. Harris was down there. So, yeah, I mean, you just can't do that like you can with a normal lineup. And the Braves will just keep going at it until they're going to pop one inning where they're going to get multiple innings, crooked numbers.
Yeah, just so many games get out of hand, and those top heavy bullpens where you have maybe two or three guys at the back that you win every game you're supposed to,
Yeah,
versus these pens that are deep all the way through. There's so many games where your starter has a bad start and you don't even get put in a position to win after that. You bring
yeah,
in the long guy, yeah, he throws 3 innings, gives up 3 more, and all of a sudden it's kind of spread out where these other guys that are coming in, like if you're not a setup man. If you're say you're another team's sixth or seventh inning guy, eighth inning guy,
yeah,
maybe not the eighth inning guy, but if you're the middle relievers for the other team, it's a big difference for those guys confidence wise pitching up two versus up 6 or 7. When you're up six
yeah,
or seven, it's just all right, let's just get it in there. There's no pressure. But this lineup up
right.
two,
Yeah,
that's stressful.
yeah. And this lineup, they've done it so many times now. When they're down 2, a
It's
lot of
tied.
people might say it's still winnable. The Braves know it's winnable. They're
They're
like, we're
almost
fine.
winning.
Yeah, they're like, we're
Yeah.
fine. Down 2 with sixth
Yeah.
inning. All
Yeah.
right, let's go, boys.
Yeah.
And they do it again and again and again. So it just
Lineup
breeds
depth too.
confidence.
Oh, for
And,
sure.
and newcomers like Kelnick come in. you've experienced it like 3 times in the first week and a half of the season. You're like, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
we're on, man.
Well, and if he
So
gets out, you got Acuna coming up. So it's it's the depth of the lineup too is you don't ever get that hole where it's like, all right, now we put up an
yeah,
easy zero and there's only 1 inning left or 2 innings left. Like your relievers, every single one of them better be locked in because there's not a soft place to land.
yeah. And the Braves bullpen on the other extreme is like Jimenez, Pierce Johnson, Iglesias had pitched and he'd warmed up and then pitched, had to use him. So we thought Snit might rest him today, but Snit was going to use him in that situation that he used him in. And they got a day off tomorrow. But you got Iglesias, you got Mentor who's pitching great.
Uh-huh.
It's just and you got Bummer who's, like we said, the stuff's there. He's gonna be fine, I think. But there's just so many weapons in that pen
And they
that
can all get people out from both sides.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think they're gonna be fine. I mean, look at them, they're 11-5, they've lost three. They had 8 All-Stars last year. 3 of them are on the IL. One of them is in AAA, Bryce Elder. Half the All-Stars they had last year are out right now. And look at them. I mean, we talked about Darius Vines, how we expected he might do something good because he pitched so well in his debut at Coors Field last
Mhm.
year. He comes in against a really tough Astros lineup, and I didn't know if he's going to make it out of that first inning. It was getting hairy, but he did. He kept pitching,
Yeah.
and I thought that was really impressive what he did after that first inning. Earned him a second start. They didn't option him the next day. He's going to start Sunday.
Good. Well, and that's what we talked about. If we
Yeah,
hand you the ball and you do a good job, you're
yeah.
getting it again. And that's kind of the role. It's just somebody's got to take it and run with it. And whoever comes up and gets the job done, you're going to get another shot. And if you keep doing well, then the job's yours to lose.
Yeah. And it helps they have the off day tomorrow, so they didn't have to have some length like they have had
Yeah.
to. But yeah, they really liked what he did and wanted to give him another start if they could without having to make another move. Snit said that's and I talked to Darius this morning. He said, I know it's Snit because Snit has said that's a tough part. It's a tough ask for these guys to get them out of their routines, come up, sit around for several days, not throw some like Vines hadn't pitched in 10 days.
Yeah.
And Vine said, I know it's just part of it. I just want to help these guys win. I just love being here. I want to help these guys win because, and I know from a manager's perspective, it's got to be one of the hardest things he has to do is a guy pitches well and you have to option him the next day because you need length. You have to tell him you're going down. He goes, I understand
Yeah.
that. He's a smart kid. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
and
That's the
Smith
worst to be
Shawver,
that nervous and do a good job and
yeah,
still get on that bus back to Gwinnett.
Smith Shawver pitched much better in his third start. By the way, today day game 4 2/3, only gave up a couple of hits. So that's progress. Um, they've got so much depth and they're going to need it all. But it's been pretty impressive how they've been able to so far. We didn't even mention Chadwick Trump. What this guy's doing, filling in while Murphy's on the IL. I don't think there's another team in baseball that could have a third catcher come up, and he's catching day games after night games. He's catching sales starts, and those guys love him. They love throwing to him. You
I
know,
saw I saw an interview with him and I love him too.
smart guy,
Yeah. Yeah. He's
chess
sharp.
player. Really, he's got a great sense of humor.
Yep.
He's been with the team since 21, and they've kept him throughout spring training every year. And he's also come up here when they've had Darno had the concussion. Murphy was hurt last year for a while. He's come up every time, and Snitz loves when he comes up and he uses him. But he sat in on all those meetings they have because this catching culture, we've talked about it here, it's really unique between Sal, Eddie is also a catching coach, not by name, but that's what he is. So they have those meetings every day. That's Sal, Eddie, Murph, Darno, and when Chadwick is up here, he's in there too. So there's the 5 of them, and they're going over all the hitters against all the pitchers, what they've had previous at bats. Then you talk to the pitchers. I mean, the pitchers all say you're so well prepared here because those guys, the hours they put in on research, you totally trust the signals they're putting down, the fingers they're putting down because they've developed this relationship with you and shown you how much research they put into it.
They're invested. When you throw to a catcher that's invested in your success, not just his
Yeah,
next at bat, and you can sense it. I've had catchers that I'm like, this is the bat first guy. Catching is just something he has to do to be
right.
in the big leagues, and you could feel that. But when a guy's invested in talking to you and you know he did his homework and
Yeah.
you walk in at 2 o'clock and you're grabbing a sandwich and you peek in the video room, he's already studying.
Yeah.
I'm not shaking that guy off tonight.
Yeah.
He's doing more work than me for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So that really helps at times like this too, when you lose a guy like Murphy and you know Trump from spring training and from knowing that he is in these meetings and does everything just like these guys are doing it and has the same mindset. They're all going over the same game plans. So there hasn't been a drop off at all when he's catching these guys. I mean, he caught Lopez's great start night before last. He's caught a couple of Sale's best starts. Um, and then he got the big knock. The guy can hit, man. He's got some
Yeah.
big hits in it. He got that
Yeah.
line drive double to left field, drove in
Yep.
those 2 runs last night. So he's really playing well. He's going to stick. I mean, when he runs out of options, if the Braves don't sign him, if they don't have room to sign him, somebody's going to. He's going to stick in the major leagues. This guy's it's got some tools, got some ability.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. The more I see of him, the more I like him, and he reminds me of guys that you wind up in a situation where the Braves have control of you and the Braves have Murphy and d'Arnaud, and you're not being a punk about it.
Yeah,
Every opportunity you get, you come up, work your ass off, do anything you can to help the team, say all the right things. That gets around the league.
and he totally appreciates the luxury he's had. I asked him, I said, has it been like graduate school? And he thought I had heard that because apparently that's what they've been saying. He said it. Called it grad school. I asked him yesterday, is it like graduate school being with these guys? And he goes, you heard that, huh? And I go, no, he goes, that's exactly, it's like grad school, man.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah, yeah. He said that, imagine that as a catcher, you're coming up and trying to learn the ropes, and you got d'Arnaud and Sean Murphy, 2 all-stars, and you got Sal Fasano, who I think is by far the best catching coach that I know of in the major leagues, and Eddie Perez. You got all those guys to help you out every day. And he said, those guys have got me so prepared. He goes, I love those guys. And Eddie said the same thing about him. He goes, I love this kid, man. He's so smart. He wants to learn. And Chadwick said, "Man, these guys have taught me so much. I've loved being here. It's been I tell people the best part of my day is sitting in on those meetings with those guys.
Oh, I bet he's learning so much. And
Oh yeah,
that's just another, big plus for culture is being welcoming and not being threatened.
yeah,
Murphy's not threatened. He's going to share
right,
everything he can and try to help this guy. And
right,
I used to always feel it as a reliever. You'd get into camp and you're competing with another lefty. There'd always be this kind of just
yeah,
this energy there where
yeah,
you're competition. And I always just tried to believe like, hey, if I do my shit, if I get my job done, I'm going to be in the big leagues somewhere. So I'm
yeah,
going to make this guy like me. I'm going to go out of my way and tell him how nasty his slider is or something like that. And they wouldn't want to like you. They want
yeah,
to hate you because you're competition and everything. And you just stick to it. Pretty soon you wind up being buddies. But if you get a whole team with that mindset of
yeah.
helping each other out and building each other up, just so many good things happen.
And we've talked about this. This goes back to the bigger point. We've talked so much about the culture of the clubhouse. And that's where I think when people just look at let the kids play or bring in all this young talent and all that. And that's great having all this young talent. But the stuff we're talking about, these huge intangibles, is set by guys like d'Arnaud and Murphy, who
Hmm.
are not at all threatened by, they want this kid to come up and do great because their jobs aren't threatened. They want him to do great because that means the team's doing great. You couldn't say the same thing if they were young guys still on the rise too. They wouldn't know how to, what is he a threat to my job because he makes a lot less
Yep,
money than I. And then it's the same thing with the rotation with
exactly.
Charlie Morton. He's 40 years old. He's not at all worried about one of these young guys like Smith Shawver taking his job. So he talks to these guys and wants them to
Yeah,
be the best they can be and not have to be in their 30s before they blossom like he did, you
yeah,
know? And Strider, he's talked to Strider so much. He wants these guys to do great. So that's the kind of stuff that you just can't create. It's got to be veterans who've experienced it and are willing and eager to share it. And they've
yeah.
got that like all over the team.
I learned so much more on the bus rides, on the plane, at the team hotel than I ever did at the field.
Yeah.
And you never know what conversation you're going to have, but the conversations have to be happening. There's some teams I was on where, I mean, I
Right.
couldn't believe I'm walking in from the bullpen, and by the time I get in there, there's guys already dressed.
Right.
how am I going to get to know that guy? You
right?
know, I mean, you're different when you're at the field. You're doing your work, you're locked in. But then there's other teams sitting around for like I love my years with the Braves for that reason. Like even after 2010, when we got knocked out of the playoffs, that whole team was there till 1 or 2 in the morning. Bobby came out and sat with us. But those moments where you're all just sitting around shooting the shit, you know, having a beer or not, whatever it is, a bunch of guys sitting around talking about the game that just happened.
Yeah,
If young guys are welcome at the table, you might hear Charlie say something that you take with you the rest of your career, whether it's a mindset
yeah.
or a thought process on a pitch or what he noticed with a hitter. And if you're just around it and it's happening, you can't help but absorb and learn so much more baseball than you ever learned just going out and playing.
Vine said just being here watching these guys, the way they go about their business. He goes, and anything that I have, any question I have, they're like, let's talk about it. I mean, they're like so
For
eager to
20
talk.
minutes, let's
Yeah,
dive in. Not just here's a quick answer, beat
yeah.
it. You know, I'm about to go hit BP, but let's dive in. I got time for you.
And I think Kelnick, we talked about Kelnick when he came, how I thought it was going to be perfect for him to be surrounded by these veteran hitters. So if he
Yeah,
started slumping like he did last year, there's going to be guys that have been through it they're so ready to talk to him. And he's not a standoffish guy, but I could tell he's kind of an introverted guy. He's kind of, we
yeah,
talked about how he kind of awkward and says the wrong things, that kind of, these guys have so embraced him that I've seen him get comfortable since
yeah,
spring training began, even though he doesn't have that kind of personality that, is easily, they've made him part of things. And I thought it was beautiful when he, in the outfield, when the outfielders come together at the end of the games and they do the gritty,
Mm.
and it's Harris and Acuna do it great. Well, Duvall and Kelnick are awkward doing it. And Duvall just kind of jumps, like makes fun.
Yeah,
Kelnick's trying to do it though. And I asked, and Acuna and Harris, there's a video of them. They're both just like falling out laughing as because he's trying
yeah.
to do it as he's running towards them. But then they all hug. And I asked Acuna after the game today, I didn't even get a chance to ask you about Kelnick doing the gritty. And he goes, terribly, terrible, terrible.
Yeah.
So, but that kind of thing, they've made this guy feel so at home. I bet he's more comfortable now than he ever was, ever in Seattle in 3 years. I
Yeah.
guarantee you, he's been here 3 weeks in a regular season, and he seems like he's totally comfortable out there, platooning with Duvall.
And that makes all the difference.
Yeah,
You know, that lets you swing free and easy. It lets you relax and guys picking you up and knowing it, I can speak from being in a bullpen, knowing that the guy coming in behind you cares about you, about your
yeah,
career. Like he's really going to be upset if he gives up your runs. You're pitching that much more confident when you're facing a guy. It's like, all right, if I wind up getting into trouble here, I got one of my best friends coming in behind me to bail
yeah,
me out versus just some guy that's punching the clock with me and probably, looking at what he's going to make in ARB next year.
right,
Yeah, it's
right.
just such a difference.
Or some teammates looking at you like, yeah, look at Bonus Baby, look at him sucking. We lost
And
tonight because he didn't do shit. Well, that's not going to happen with the Braves. He doesn't have those expectations for one thing. And when one of them doesn't get a runner over, you never hear them like you never see them rolling their eyes or like, yeah, so and so
yeah.
would have got. They just don't do that. So I'm
I,
sure it's a breath of fresh air for this kid, man.
I had this moment when I was early in my career. I won't name the player, but I'm jogging in from our closer's hurt, and I'm jogging in from the outfield. And I'd had a decent year the year before, and I had a really good spring training, and our closer got hurt, and they're like, "We're gonna roll with you." And I'm already kind of like, "Shit, I'm closing." I was 22 or 23 in the big leagues, and I'm jogging in, and the one of the guys did a double take. Like, what the hell are you doing in this game? It's a one-run game. What do you think happened? Walk
You
off
can,
bomb. Like that energy, you feel
yeah,
that from a teammate, you start
yeah,
questioning yourself. But when you know your teammates believe in you, and
yeah,
like that Harrison Ozuna situation last year, where a guy with tons of time in the big leagues comes up
yeah,
and tells him how good he is,
yeah,
it means so much more coming from a player than
yeah,
it can from a coach, because the coaches want the best from you. But when it's coming from a player and a teammate and a guy that doesn't have to do it. He doesn't have to
yeah.
come say that, says that to you and tells you how good you are. It means so much more.
And I know some people probably get people that are more statistically oriented or analytics oriented or results oriented, and they judge things by what they see on the field, performance.
Yeah.
I know they probably get tired of us talking about it and think, yeah, oh, okay, here we go again. but we wouldn't talk about it if it wasn't so essential to the Braves' success of what they've done. You cannot overstate how important chemistry
Culture
has
is.
been to this team. And these comebacks, it's not a coincidence they do it better than any other team, that they never feel like they're out of it. That starts from the top. That starts from
Yep.
Snicker being so relaxed and not panicking. They look down the
Yep.
dugout and they see Snit not changing his expression. People on TV are like, why did he get pissed off? Why did he chew the umpire out? Because that would go against what he is. He
Yep.
never panics. He never gets flustered, and they appreciate that. So, but the chemistry thing, though, that's why they can lose a guy like Wash. And as huge as Wash was, it is so ingrained now. What these veterans are, they have it so much now that they can lose a guy and it doesn't change the chemistry if just you lose just one guy or two
No.
guys. They still have it. And this is their window, man. It's not gonna end anytime soon. But man, I think when they look back on it, they're gonna look back at this period and go, God, what we had was special because you got the talent and you got the manager and a coaching staff and a chemistry and a crowd. So you just got everything right now that you need to win. That's why, for their sake, they need to win another World Series, so people can't look at, they won one. You won two, and
Yeah.
it's like it changes
It's
everything.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when Dean Smith at Carolina, North Carolina basketball, had won one championship. They used to hang him in effigy for a while because he'd never won another championship, right? Then he wins
Yeah.
a second one. Then they play in the Dean Smith Center now, and he's a god at Carolina. But they had
Yep.
hung him in effigy for a while when he couldn't win that second one. The second one is always just so changes the whole complexion in any sport when you do it.
Yeah. And it's so hard to win
Yeah,
multiple with a group. Back to back's basically impossible.
in
Barely ever
baseball it
happens.
is.
But it's kind of a crapshoot, and you can't judge it based on only winning the World Series. But when
Yeah,
you are in this position every year and you're this
yeah,
good,
yeah.
you
Like
want to
like the
get a
Braves
couple.
like the Braves in the '90s.
Yeah.
They had a special chemistry
And the
with
only thing
Bobby.
anybody talks about is they only won one.
Right, exactly. With Bobby and with the three Hall of Fame pitchers, a Hall of Fame third baseman, a Hall of Fame future Hall of Fame center fielder towards the back end of that. Yeah, and they won. And Fred McGriff at first base, a Hall of Famer for a while. I mean, and they won one. And that's what people go, yeah, but they won 14 straight. But
Yep.
so
14
Braves are
straight
going
is insane.
insane. It will never be done again, I don't think. The Braves are going for their
No,
seventh. So,
that's
but
that's that's pretty damn good too. But
yeah,
yeah,
it's
you
not
gotta.
happening nowadays. I mean, the Astros, we're seeing the Astros, they're having a down year when you think they're going to win the West every year.
Hmm.
But you change managers, you change general managers, you change some of that stuff. But so anyway, all right. So they survived a trip without Strider, and it looks like they're going to be fine. And we'll see. I mean, they're always an injury away from things changing with one of the veterans, but we've seen them. We've seen them just shrug it and keep going. That's what they all say. It's next man up here, man. We hate losing.
Yep.
We're not going to replace Ozzy, but it's next man up. And I don't think he's going to be out that long. It's not like when he broke his foot. So he'll be back, I think, but within a month. But we'll see. Anyway, good trip. They got the Rangers coming up. That's going to be tough. 3-game homestand. They got a 9-game homestand, 3-game
That's
series against the
awesome.
Rangers, and an off day in there. So I think they're going to be home for like 10 days before they go on the road again.
Finally get
11 days.
finally get moved into their houses.
Yeah, they got home tonight, so they'll have like 11 days to be home. So chance to make some hay.
Hmm.
And right now they've got a damn good record as it is. The Mets are playing better too, so they need to keep winning. The Mets are, I think, 10-8 now after
Yeah,
losing their
and
first 5.
I'm not going
Phillies
to
are,
make the mistake. I don't care if the Phillies are 15 under in July. I'm not giving up on them.
oh, they're too
You know,
good. The Phillies are
yeah,
going to be there.
yeah,
3 teams in the league are going to be in the division are going to be there.
yeah. It's not going to be
Tomorrow's
an easy
no,
division.
no, it's three legit teams. All right, we appreciate it, everybody. Thanks for listening, and hope everybody enjoyed it. We'll talk to you again after